Trade rumors are heating up for the New York Knicks in a move that everybody wants to see happen, as Donte Divincenzo recently made an appearance with his old teammates in Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, and Mikal Bridges, and Knicks fans are calling for Leon Rose to pull off a generational heist, bringing Divincenzo back to the team, and we're going to break down why this is way more realistic than many people believe, with Donte Divincenzo even speaking on it himself. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here, and we're going to jump right into things as always. And guys, if you're part of that 66% that's not subscribed to Knicks Digest, make sure to subscribe. We have some of the best content on YouTube of all sports, and we're having a bunch of fun on this channel. You don't want to miss out. We're trying to get to 14K before the playoffs, so please jump on the wagon. Let's go. Let's get this thing done. But more importantly, let's jump in and talk about some New York Knicks basketball, because Donte Divincenzo, as a lot of us all know by now, recently made an appearance with three of his best friends on the planet who he happened to play with at Villanova and win a national championship with, in Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart. There's a commercial out there. They always make a bunch of fun commercials around March Madness. I'm not saying these four guys, just basketball in general. There's a lot of great commercials when March Madness comes into town that they'll play a ton. We see some of them with Samuel Jackson, Charles Barkley, Spike Lee together, and now we're seeing these four. The Nova Knicks, the four guys who had Knicks fans completely clamoring for something that would have been beautiful, but didn't even last one game, as after the New York Knicks did acquire Mikal Bridges over the summer, as we all know, it ended with Donte Divincenzo ending up going to the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Karl-Anthony Towns trade. Since the moment Divincenzo got traded, Knicks fans have been just destroyed by losing him. Divincenzo had one of the most exciting seasons that many Knicks fans can remember. Now, it wasn't the greatest season ever. It's not like the man put up unbelievable, unmatchable numbers. He put up great numbers, don't get me wrong, and I'm not trying to disparage that at all. The man put up 15.5 points per game on 40% three-point shooting. He was awesome. He was also giving the Knicks that energy that it feels like sometimes the team doesn't have right now. Divincenzo is never afraid to be the muscle. I mean, when Joel Embiid hurt Mitchell Robinson, Divincenzo went right up to Embiid and was like, don't do that. Don't do that. Just right to the big, giant Joel Embiid, with Divincenzo having zero problem about it, zero fear. And the Knicks need one of those players, especially after the whole Draymond Green, Karl-Anthony Towns debacle. And Knicks fans are calling for Donte Divincenzo to be back on the team. And Divincenzo even spoke on the New York Knicks fans and just his love for the Knicks in general. Now, we all know the comments he made about him essentially still being a Knicks fan, but Divincenzo also said, "My love for Knicks fans is through the roof. I said it was one of the best years of my life playing there last year. I didn't plan, I didn't hope to leave. I didn't sign a deal hoping, okay, I just signed a 4-year deal. I hope I get traded in 1 year." That was not part of Donte Divincenzo's plans. And I mean, it's blindsiding for a guy who played so well and captured the hearts of Knicks fans across the planet for him to get moved after 1 year. Probably the greatest 1-year Knick in NBA history. And Divincenzo truly captured everyone's hearts. And to this day, every single Knick fan out there roots for Donte Divincenzo, and most of us are rooting for Julius Randle, both of whom obviously in Minnesota as part of the Karl-Anthony Towns trade. And also, I do just want to say very quickly, when that trade happened, I was very anti it. I thought that Karl-Anthony Towns was straight up worse than Julius Randle. I was wrong about that. I also stand by at this point that the trade did make a ton of sense for the Knicks. I tried to rationalize it in every way possible, thinking about all the reasons why the Knicks maybe couldn't have made the trade and what could have happened, but it doesn't really seem to get anywhere. I mean, we will go over that, but essentially, just the whole deal of it. Look, the Knicks needed a center. Mitch wasn't going to come back till March. They had a problem. They could have played Julius at the small ball 5, but they didn't want to. On top of that, Julius Randle wanted a bigger contract extension that he wasn't going to get from the Knicks, as the Knicks told him no. The two sides were nowhere close on a contract extension. Randle likely would have ended up walking in free agency, so the Knicks would have gotten nothing back for Julius Randle. And yes, they still would have had Donte Divincenzo, but Karl-Anthony Towns is better than Donte Divincenzo, and Karl-Anthony Towns was the best player the Knicks could get for Julius Randle, and they decided it was worth trading Divincenzo for to get not only a center, but also a guy who's better than Julius Randle and the best trade package possible for Randle. Outside of that, there's a few other teams that showed a bit of interest in Randle, one of them being the Atlanta Hawks, who probably would have tried to package some deal centered around Clint Capella for Randle, which, yes, would have given them a big man, and yes, would have let them keep around Donte Divincenzo, but at the same time, they would have lost Randle for a worse deal that probably, it would not have involved a guy like a Jalen Johnson. At the very best, the Knicks would have gotten back DeAndre Hunter, which would have been nice as well, and the Knicks would have been able to run some lineup of Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Donte DiVincenzo, or Josh Hart, and then, or DeAndre Hunter, and then Clint Capella, I guess, and maybe you can make the argument that that team's better, but I really don't think so. So I want to explain that, what all went down there, but also just talking about this whole Divincenzo situation. Fans are clamoring for Donte to come back. Fans all over on these tweets after that commercial came to light of saying, I want him back. He's coming back. I know it. A bunch of fans saying, Knicks, get him back on the team. It goes on and on and on with these Knicks fans clamoring for Donte Divincenzo to just get back on the team. And some people saying that last year's Knicks were better because they had more fire, they had more heart. I think this is a better team, and I think it's a matter of figuring it out. And as long as the Knicks do figure it out, it is going to be a better team than last year, but they're probably going to have a similar outcome because the Celtics are the 2 seed, making it pretty hard for the New York Knicks to get past the second round of the playoffs. However, it is possible. I don't want to act like it's completely impossible for the Knicks to do. They are still a great team. Jalen Brunson, don't bet against them. We've seen why not to, but it's all important to note. All that being said, at the same time, it is sad that Donte Divincenzo is no longer on the New York Knicks. Now, Divincenzo with the Knicks, as I mentioned, 15.5 points per game, shot 40% from three-point range, true shooting of 59%. I mean, dude was unreal. 3 assists per game, played in 81 games, was an awesome defender, the best defender on Tyrese Maxey last playoffs. Divincenzo added so much good to the New York Knicks, and not having him on the team still hurts. There's still that glaring hole in so many games where it feels like, damn, if they had Donte Divincenzo, they'd be so much better right now. They need that volume three-point shooter, the guy who routinely is going to go 5 for 11 from three-point range, the man who's going to break the Knicks three-point record in a year for most threes made in one season, and going to shoot 40% while doing it and playing great defense and doing all the intangible things that you love about Donte Divincenzo. Losing him was truly one of the worst moments as a Knicks fan, and it's understandable why. But Divincenzo said you always have to separate the business aspect from the fans. I think the Knicks fans will always have a special place in my heart, and Divincenzo knows that this is mutual, that Knicks fans miss him, and that he would be a perfect fit for this team, that the Knicks should try to find a way to figure out how to get him off the Timberwolves and back to the Knicks. The Timberwolves fans, they're not as in love with Divincenzo. A lot of them like him. He's playing a lot better than he did at the start of the season, but he's not untouchable. And the New York Knicks, they'd be able to work some way to get him back. Now, it would involve trading Mitchell Robinson, and this wouldn't work for the Minnesota Timberwolves. As on draft night last year, the Knicks tried to trade Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, and that same first-round pick that they traded for Karl Anthony Towns for Towns. However, the Timberwolves declined, saying they had no interest in Mitchell Robinson, being that he was injured, and also they already had a rim protector in Rudy Gobert, so they felt adding Mitchell Robinson while also still having Naz Reid just became too redundant, which does make a ton of sense. You cannot fault the Minnesota Timberwolves for doing the correct move there, and also being able to pull off, like, DiVincenzo, perfect fit next to Anthony Edwards. Very, very, very good move by the Timberwolves. And it hasn't worked out at all, and they should have kept Karl Anthony Towns, is the clear answer of what their big problem is this season, is that they're missing out on Towns. And Anthony Edwards, who loves Karl Anthony Towns, is not as happy not having Karl Anthony Towns on his team. I mean, Edwards defended freaking Towns to Obama, dude. Like, Barack Obama, the former president of the United States, when Obama kind of took a shot at Towns, and Edwards said, don't do that. Don't do that. Same thing that DiVincenzo said to Joel Embiid, actually. But it did happen, and you look at things, and you understand that the Knicks should try to pull off a DiVincenzo trade, and it's not out of the realm of possibility to do so. I mean, it was mentioned by Brett Sigel months ago now that DiVincenzo was being viewed as a possible trade candidate for several contending teams around the league. While the Timberwolves valued his skill set, the 27-year-old was not thrilled with the idea of coming off the bench after being traded to the Timberwolves. Now is the important point to mention that DiVincenzo wasn't thrilled about the idea of coming off the bench for the Knicks either. He was not really loving that idea, and however, it later was cleared up by Ian Begley that there was really no problem about that. And if he was upset with the Timberwolves coming off the bench, it'd be understandable if he was also upset with the Knicks, but probably would have preferred to play on the New York Knicks because, well, that's where his friends were. They were a contending team, and he understood his role there and knew he was going to still be able to get his shots, which we saw consistently from Donte, which was great to see. So obviously it's possible that DiVincenzo's not thrilled in Minnesota, but it's also possible that he is. He said the Timberwolves were his second choice in free agency when he signed with the Knicks because he has some family in the Midwest. So, look, I wish the Devo was on the Knicks, and I do think there's a way the Knicks can find their way back to him, and I think Leon Rose is actively going to try to do so. I fully expect him to, in fact, because the way that Devo would just clearly fit with this team super, super, super well. So I fully expect the Knicks to try to continue to trade for Donte Divincenzo and find a way to get Divincenzo back on the New York Knicks after all these years of not having him. Now, this season for Divincenzo, he's playing a lot better than he did at the start of the year. He's up to shooting 39.5, really 40% from three, 36% on corner threes, which is a little bit down from last season, but his numbers across the board are a little bit down outside of the rebounds and assists. He's getting over a steal per game, doing Donte Divincenzo things, and still putting up 12 points per game. It's not as good of a season, but he's still having a really good season, and shout out to Donte for really coming back after a rough start. Really happy for him. I do want to see Donte Divincenzo be his best self all the time. He seems like the absolute man, and you know he loved being a New York Knicks. It's a matter of the Knicks trying to find their way back to Divincenzo. Now, the Knicks they had a great core then, and they have a great core now. And people are acting like they don't have a great core now, which they still do. And it goes farther than these three guys right here. But these three guys are a great fit together. They're great. Mikal Bridges is slowly finding his way, especially with Jalen Brunson being out. He's learning kind of how to play, and Brunson will be back. And by the playoffs, hopefully Mikal's warmed up and ready to go. OG Anunoby's been great. Karl-Anthony Towns has looked like an MVP for the majority of this season. Mitchell Robinson is back, having that huge impact that he always has. So all of this is adding up to this world where, yeah, the Knicks are fine right now, and people should stop freaking out. But at the same time, it's hard to ignore the fact that the Knicks have a weak bench. What would fix that? This guy. He'd fix that. Give him 30 minutes off the bench every night for the Knicks, and they're a true finals contender. It's a matter of finding him. The Knicks would have to trade Mitchell Robinson in order to get that done, so it would have to be a 3-team trade. But do whatever it takes to get Donte Divincenzo back. I truly believe Leon Rose does want... That's not Leon Rose. That's Pacome. I truly believe that Leon Rose does want to get Divincenzo back if he can. And also, while we're showing Pacome, add him into the trade if you have to. Trade who you need to get Divincenzo back. You try to get this guy back under any circumstances possible, and I do believe in the Knicks being able to pull that off at some point. Probably not over this offseason, but maybe next season as well. We could look for Donte Divincenzo to make his return to the Garden. I do think he would welcome it, and I think Leon Rose will try to do it if he could find a way to. But guys, I do want to hear from you. Do you think there's any world where Devo's ever back as a New York Knick? Let me know in the comments down below. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day, and go Knicks.